What if you could access the mind of a commercial developer, commercial broker, and a commercial investor all at the same time? Well, guess what? I got you. I have an interview with my man out of Nashville, Tyler, that's going to share all of his knowledge about commercial real estate. So you know what you need to do is stand by. Let's get it.
Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. You text me then I'll text you back. You text me then I'll text you back. TikTok, you don't stop. I will help you make your paper stack. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at now? 205-964-52439. Yep. 205-964-52439. You know.
Hello, guys. This is Ty, aka the Flip Man, and today, this is one of the more special days of the interviews, the content that I've put out over the last few years, because I have the next level of real estate, a wealth of knowledge available to us today, and hopefully many more like this. I have my man Tyler Cauble from Nashville, Tennessee. He's a commercial real estate investor, broker, developer, the whole nine. So if he doesn't know how to do it, I'm sure he knows people that's doing it. So what's going on, Tyler?
Yeah, Ty, thanks for having me on the show, man. I'm really excited to be here and to talk some more about commercial real estate with you. I do want to say part of being a commercial real estate investor is obviously having construction going on in your building, because you're constantly adding tenants to the space. So if y'all hear something behind me, that is just us ripping up the flooring and putting new tenants in and making money. So bear with me.
No problem, man. We're raw here. They know how I get down. So it's all real. So yeah, man. So just start from the top, man. Probably this is going to be the first introduction to you as a person, maybe a little bit before you even got into commercial real estate, and we'll lead up to there.
Okay. Yeah. So I got started in commercial real estate about 8 years ago. Grew up in Nashville, went to college in Knoxville, dropped out after my freshman year, moved back home, and got a job working as a construction manager for my grandfather's construction company. So it's just overseeing some jobs there. And about 3 months into that, I got a job offer from a boutique developer here in town that had actually seen what I was doing in sales. This was back in 2013. And commercial real estate wasn't really moving back then like it was now. So he wanted somebody in-house to work on his developments instead of dealing with a national firm outside of it. So he hired me, paid for me to get my real estate license, gave me a 150,000 square foot shopping center, a 57,000 square foot office building, and a couple 100,000 square feet of industrial space to lease and run with. And I did. I focused on just only that for 2 years. But during that 2-year time period, I was sitting in the weekly development meetings. So I learned how to put development projects together, which most brokers never learned how to do. It was the greatest thing ever. And my third or fourth year in the business, I put together my first development deal, which was 42 townhomes that we sold down in Bellevue, which is just southwest of Nashville. And after that, I was kind of off to the races. I left, started my own firm. I've got the Cauble Group, which is a commercial real estate brokerage. I've got Parasol, which is my property management company. And I've got Hamilton, which is our capital and development company. So we do everything from I just acquired a $400,000 commercially zoned home that we put a hack company in, Daisy May, that I'm invested in, all the way up to I bought a 330,000 square foot shopping center on 32 acres for $18 million back in April that we were master planning to be a high density mixed use town center. So a little bit of everything.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So you said a lot there. I pretty much understood a lot of that you were talking about. So as you know, my channel is mainly based on wholesale and real estate, which is a entry level for a lot of people, because your cash and credit really doesn't factor in. It's all about finding a great deal, and you normally can just find the money for it or whatever. You can get paid to maybe move out of the way or stay in the deal. It just depends on how it's negotiated. So I wanted to just from what you know now, versus what you knew when you started, what would you say to someone that wants to get into commercial real estate? What would be, you think, the best path for them, whether they've done real estate at all before or haven't done anything before?
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about commercial real estate is that you can be successful in it in any capacity. I mean, look, I know developers that started off as brokers. I know developers that started off as architects, as accountants. It doesn't matter, right? Because as long as you have some sort of understanding, at the end of the day, all that you're doing as a commercial real estate investor is basically, it's capital markets, right? You're figuring out how to make money. You're just doing it with a physical attribute instead of trading stocks. So that's essentially what we do at the end of the day. I would say figure out what you want to do and just go out and find somebody to work with. I mean, I loved getting my start as a commercial real estate broker because that still massively helps us to this day, because I can very easily underwrite these projects and know, okay, well, we have all these tenants that we can call. We know this is the rent that we can likely achieve, et cetera, et cetera. But that also helps if you're an architect, right? You know how to go out and design the project. You know the zoning codes. It also helps if you're an accountant. You know how to run the books. You know how to put the capital together. You know how to run the spreadsheets. Now, that stuff it's all very important. The best thing for me, though, was working with a developer for 4.5 years before I went off on my own, because development is hard, man. It is not easy. You have to understand a lot about the entire process. I say development is like being the conductor of an orchestra, right? You may not know how to play violin. You may not know how to play the flute, but you need to know what every single person in that orchestra is playing and when they're supposed to be playing it and how they're supposed to be playing it. And then you've got to make sure they stay on time. And that's what a developer is. They're a conductor of the orchestra.
All right, boom, man. So just to one of your projects, I've watched several of your videos, and it's more like a vlog on the project that you have, the wash. And it basically, I'll let you explain it. But first of all, I'll let you explain it, then I'll ask the question. Explain to them what the wash is and how that came about.
Yeah, so back when the pandemic hit, I was looking at this car wash and trying to figure out what we were going to do with it. It was 6 bays, very, very small site. I mean, I'm talking like maybe 0.10 acres, tiny. And we looked at office space. We looked at retail space. We looked at Airbnb. What we knew was that we couldn't tear the structure down. If we did, the city was going to come back and condemn 20 feet of right of way, which on a 0.10 acre lot, it's like half the parcel. We had to work with what was existing. And when the pandemic hit, we started getting a lot of calls at the brokerage from restaurants asking for essentially, what we're calling now, this didn't exist back then, but a retail facing ghost kitchen. They wanted a kitchen that had minimal to no seating where they could cook and send out for delivery, but also people could stop by on site and, basically order at a counter. And so, we just kept turning people away. We just kept saying, you know what, it doesn't exist in Nashville. I'm sorry. There's nothing that we can do. We'll keep an eye out. Well, I was driving by the car wash one day, and I had just gotten off a call with a group like that. And so it just immediately came to mind. I was like, man, what if I converted those into micro restaurants? And so I called my architect, who's my partner on that deal. And he said, absolutely, I'm all in on that. And that's where we got it. So we converted 5 of the bays into micro restaurants. So there's 380 square foot restaurants, walk-up counters. And then I'm doing a bar in Bay 6 that we're calling Bay 6. And that will have 20 seats inside, but all of the restaurants are just kitchens. There's no walk-in. There's 70 or 80 seats outside. Half of that's covered. And then we only have 5 parking spots on site. So those are all 10 minutes max. They're optimally designed for to-go and delivery.
Wow. Okay. So I think just looking at the website, when I was just taking a look at it, you're leasing the spaces for $3,250 each with utilities paid.
Yes, sir.
And so, which I know you already know the math on it, but so that's 5 units. So that's $16,250 a month. What would be the NOI? What's the projected NOI on that? Well, let me explain that for them so when people know what it is. The net operating income is basically taking the gross annual income, subtracting the gross annual expenses to give you the net operating income. So what will what will that be after that 16,250?
Yeah, so we are not sharing those numbers because
Oh,
we're
okay.
actually going to do no, and you're totally fine because we're going to do multiple. I'm already working on the second and third locations of it because we kind of cracked a code that we've realized that no one else can crack. I've been getting calls from all over the country from groups that are trying to do it, and what I keep telling them is like, look, you go find me a site, we'll bring our brand and we'll do it with you. But that hasn't happened so far. But I'll tell you this: it's one of the best. It's one of the best returns we've ever gotten on a deal.
Oh, well, that's what I was about to ask. Because of that, and when I reached out to you, I think I reached out to you on, well, actually both. I sent you an email and on Instagram. Yeah, yep. And I had a property that I thought would work. Then I thought about it. Because you sort of have to have some type of walk up nature to it. Maybe like not in a residential area, but some of that type of activity, or will that even matter?
Yeah, you definitely want that because you want the neighborhood to kind of partake in what's being offered there. That was one of the very unique things that we have with this site. It's highly walkable from the neighborhood, but it's also right off a major intersection. So we're able to get that, very easily accessible to go and delivery traffic. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, so yeah, you definitely want to play off of walk-in as well as to go and delivery. That's what we really liked about this was it's not just a ghost kitchen, right? Because you can do a ghost kitchen in the basement of an office building or the basement of, a retail building, doesn't really matter. We wanted these to be retail facing so that these kitchens could take advantage of that walk by or walk-in traffic.
Correct. So does it ideally need to be in a neighborhood, or what do you think about that as for the type of neighborhood?
Yeah, I think it can go in just about any neighborhood. I mean, that's what's really exciting about it is that, because of what we're offering, we're creating this really unique restaurant hub, like a food and beverage hub for the community. So, and who doesn't want to go to a place and take their family to where you have 5 restaurant options, right? Because you might want to get pizza, the kids might want barbecue, the wife might want Greek food, right? Like everybody can get a taste of whatever they want and, have family dinner together.
So basically I'm trying to make people visualize it. It's basically like 5 food trucks lined up in a square, based or the old fashioned mall food court that's outdoors.
Totally. Basically. Yeah. So we compare it to food trucks all the time because if you look at what food trucks did to food and beverages, right? Like they kind of revolutionized, they brought a new life to food in Nashville, at least. And I know it's doing it in Charlotte and some of the other cities now too.
They're everywhere here in Birmingham.
Yeah, because you get all these cool, weird concepts that never would have been able to really open on their own. Like I talk about the grilled cheesery here in Nashville all the time, right? I mean, you think about it. It's a grilled cheese restaurant. Who would believe in that, right? Like you wouldn't think, oh, you're going to make grilled cheeses and make a whole business out of that. I'm not going to fund that, or I'm not going to put you in my space. There's no way that's going to be successful. Right. Well, they were one of the most successful food trucks ever in Nashville history. And now they've got multiple brick and mortar locations. I mean, they're absolutely crushing it. It's such a cool concept. And so that's what I love about food trucks and these smaller restaurant ideas is that it gives other restaurateurs a chance.
Would this work? Would you think, I know this is the first one, and like I said, you had an actual waiting list of people that actually want to be tenants, which is always a good thing. There was a recently built retail strip, and only one of the spaces are filled. Would that fit in something like that, or does it? If you know what I mean, it's just a rectangular building. Just straight around. Just all the spaces are empty except one of them. They got a wing stop at the end of one of them, and all the rest of them are not filled. Now, I know most of those buildings are designed to pretty much adjust to the square footage if needed for a particular tenant. They may need 2 of the spaces if, whatever. So with something like that work, that it could be altered, even though it was just built, it could still be altered to work for something like that?
I think it totally could. I mean, one of the major factors of this project is just the cool factor. Right. I mean, it's an old car wash. It's got all of this seating outside. I think that you kind of lose that when you get into a strip center.
I got you.
So like everything that we're doing is a standalone concept where it's just the six restaurants. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, you could definitely do that.
So this is your brainchild because individuals kept pushing you. Some of your clients that needed to do something different kept pushing you, and you said, "There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that." And then the light bulb went off with that car wash.
Yeah, it finally clicked, man. I mean, it's a great lesson in, listen to the market, because they may be asking for something that they don't even know they want, and they may be asking for something that's an opportunity for you to go create. I mean, that's what that was. Retail facing ghost kitchens did not exist before we went out and did this project.
And because of the zoning, you had to keep the structure because you're going to lose some of the frontage, right? Some of the actual lot space. So my wheels are spinning. I'm just thinking about all the properties in my head that I passed by. I was like, something needs to be there, something needs to be there, something needs to be there. So building something from the ground up would be okay as long as you had to, but you're only operating on 0.1 acres. So that's almost like everything is in play if the zoning permits.
That's right. Yeah. So we're the second iteration is going to be completely modular construction. So it's going to be manufactured in a warehouse.
Okay.
And they'll ship it, and we'll just basically install it on site, which is really cool. We're excited about that.
What type of square footage are you talking about on something like that?
Same sizes, like 300 to 380 square feet.
So a total of maybe 18 to 2,000 square feet.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Well, yeah. So on 6 of them, yeah, give or take 22 to 2,400.
Okay. Cool. All right. Okay. Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. Now, one of the questions just on the development side of it. Now, guys, this really you all are just in on Tyler and I are at the bar, and you all are just in on our conversation because a lot of stuff I want to know. Even though I've stuck my toe in commercial, I'm a long way from where I want to be. So and I get this question from a lot of the people that follow me, some students, non-students, or whatever. They're always sending me deals with land and whatever. And my response is always, well, what makes this a great deal? Now, they just see a piece of vacant land. And my next question is there any other development going on there? Which all of that matters, but then sometimes it can't matter. What goes into a decision of a piece of land that may have been vacant for 12 years? It's been vacant so long, the sign is faded, even though they've been trying to sell it and they have a sign that is faded. You can't even see who the broker is or the price or the phone number or anything. What happens in a lot of those cases where something just finally happens and someone says, we're about to invest some money in that area or in that piece of property?
Yeah, I think it totally depends on what is going on around it, right? Because you may have residential creep, right? So like we're seeing that in Madison, which is just north of East Nashville, which is where we spend 99% of our time is in East Nashville. Well, over the last 10 years, East Nashville has gotten so expensive that the people who can no longer afford East Nashville are moving into Madison. Well, because of that, the demographic in Madison is getting younger. It's getting wealthier. And so now you're starting to see, okay, well, now there is residential demand for this type of product up there. So we're looking at Madison for one of our next locations. So, something like that could happen. You could also have, like Nashville just had a few weeks ago, we had a massive jobs announcement with Oracle bringing 8,500 jobs to downtown, to East Nashville, or the East Bank rather. And, something like that will spark a lot of interest because developers start looking at that going, okay, well, there's going to be 8,500 jobs at that tower. So let's go look at everything within a 2-mile radius, because 8,500 jobs means 16,000 plus people are going to have to move into this area. Just to accommodate that. So, that there's a massive amount of manufactured demand because of that. It could also just be that a city's developing, right? You look at some of the more developed corridors in Nashville, you've got, West End, 8th Avenue, 12th Avenue. Well, they've already been developed, right? So you can't really go develop anything else down there. So you're going to start looking on Dickerson Pike. You're going to start looking down Gallatin and Lafayette and some of these other major corridors. And so naturally development will just, it's the path of development. It's headed that way. So there's many reasons why, but it's always good to have your finger on the pulse of a neighborhood. I mean, that's why we spend so much of our time in East Nashville and heavily invest in this neighborhood, because we're constantly over here. We know everything that's going on. So it makes it very easy for us to make a decision very quickly about any property over here.
Okay. Here in Birmingham, on what we would call the south side of Birmingham, a lot of mixed use properties, condos, lofts have went up in the last 5 years. It's just like I've been in Birmingham since 1990, so it will be 31 years in September. I'm talking about buildings that have been vacant, Tyler, since I've been here. All of that's in play now. It's just like they're just coming down. Next thing you know, it's 10 stories or whatever. And so part of the reason I kept asking about the wash is that it seemed like that area would be ideal for it. A lot of, like you say, younger crowds going down. It's near UAB Hospital, which one of the larger employers in the state of Alabama. So something like that, when you see that much development going on, and you wanted to somewhat, you didn't really know, you wanted to stick your toe and you may have some resources to get into something like that. Who would you reach out to? Would you reach out to a broker? Would you research some of those properties to see who developed them? Or how would you go about that if you had to advise someone like myself?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely start reaching out to brokers that are active in the area. I mean, they're going to have all of those relationships and all that knowledge already. But you could start looking at the tax records just to start seeing what land is trading for. What's the price per square foot of the land? What's the price per acre? That way you start to realize, okay, well, if we see a piece of property that's less than that, we know it's a deal. Let's make a move on it, right? So it's knowledge is power. So the more that you know about what's happening in the market, the better of an investor you can be. Yeah, I would say brokers are definitely your best contact. The next best contact is just to teach yourself, but then start sending letters, right? I mean, I'm sure you do that quite a bit in wholesaling. Is just send property owners letters. A lot of people don't do that in commercial real estate. We do that, and I bought a building last year because of it. It works really well because a lot of people are not sending commercial property owners letters.
Wow. Have you done any self-storage projects in your time?
I've not, but I've got a couple of buddies that are all in on that.
All in? Okay. Like I said, if you're not doing it, you know someone that is. Okay, boom. All right. So as far as because I know what'll happen, people like you say, people have reached out to you about that wash concept. And what's the website for that so people can take a look at it?
So right now it's eatatthewash.com. We do not have a website up. We're opening the project in September. Okay. You can find the Instagram at eatatthewash. Or you can just follow me on Instagram, Commercial in Nashville. That's the best way to really keep up with the project because I'm sharing the behind the scenes, the development, the construction, all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's switch gears on that property you're talking about that you bought for $18 million. So that was just to purchase the property. The overall development, I think I was listening to one of your videos about it, is what, 300 million, something of that nature? Yeah, we think it'll be somewhere between $300 and $500 million. Okay. So when you say that, are you saying that's the cost of the actual project, correct? That's correct. Okay. So what are the phases of that, or have you all gotten that far down the rabbit hole on that? Yeah, so we haven't gotten too far down the rabbit hole on it. We're going through the master planning phase right now, just trying to figure out how it's going to lay out in the future. We do have leases on the side, so we were maintaining the shopping center as it exists already, and honoring those leases that are there. So, once those have run out, that's when we'll start to redevelop the project. We'll be starting with multifamily. We expect to start with around 300 units on the multifamily side, and then we'll kind of phase into more of a multifamily retail, then eventually add office, and then more multifamily and retail. Wow. So at this point, it's producing income now, which made it a little bit more attractive than just you all spending 18 million and it's just sitting there. So it's already still producing income for your investors and people involved. Okay. Yeah, the project's like 95% leased, maybe more. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's a viable shopping center just already. Okay. All right. So, shopping malls, like the indoor malls that we all grew up on or whatever. I'm quite a bit older than you, but what do you see those going now? I know here in Birmingham, the main mall, the Galleria Mall, you can see a lot of a few of the anchors have left. A lot of the spaces are vacant.
what do you see those going? Because obviously it's a prime piece of real estate. What happens to some of those, you think, in the future? Because for whatever reason they started to die over the last few years, and COVID didn't help it any.
Yeah, I think they'll turn into high density mixed use projects. I'm not a believer in standalone retail anymore, at least at scale. I think that your small neighborhood shopping centers will do just fine, right? And they have. I mean, they've actually done very well through Amazon, through COVID, doesn't matter. Because think about it. I mean, everybody's going to be going down to their local nail salon. They're going to be going down to their dry cleaners. They're going to go down to the local pub. I mean, that stuff, it does just fine. Big boxes, these shopping malls, on the other hand, they are prime targets for Amazon, right? I mean, what they're offering is very easily replaced by internet ordering, by online ordering. So why would anybody, go out of their way? Now, the way that you combat that is you turn them into high density mixed use centers, right? So you've got apartments upstairs, you've got a hotel on site, you've got condos in one corner, so that people can then walk out of their residences and they can walk to, and then that justifies a better retail, better restaurants, better food and beverage, because now you've got basically a built-in clientele on site, right? So like, what retailer, what restaurateur wouldn't want that? So, that's where I see that heading. I think that standalone retail, I also think that standalone multifamily doesn't make any sense. Because think about it, why wouldn't you want to have a coffee shop or a bar or something like that as an amenity to your residence? I think it makes so much sense to just have mixed use and have an offering for everybody there. So that's what I think. High density mixed use.
Boom. Okay. All right. Triple net, single tenant properties. I know you love those. Most investors do. I know you've had a lot of experience with that. And when you see, and as I said, I've done a couple of those, over the years, and, it can be lucrative. They're very difficult to put together. And what I've done before was basically just take it's a vacant unit, put it under contract. The hard part is getting a tenant to agree to lease it, for X 10, 15 year triple net lease. And then I can find a buyer for it or whatever. At that point, it's pretty easy, especially if I get the actual property at a discount. As far as the triple net lease, the QSS, the quick service restaurants, we know those are still viable, but some, it just depends on your business. If you're in retail, COVID somewhere hurt a lot of those. So some of those may not open back up if they close because of COVID. Do you see that as a huge opportunity for potential investors, or like with anything, it's just going to depends on where it is and where it's located?
I think it depends on where it is and where it's located. I mean, in Nashville, we had a bunch of restaurants open up during the pandemic, and they actually exceeded their pre-pandemic expectations. Okay. So, I think these restaurant closures, I think retail closures, it's all on a city by city, state by state basis. Nashville did just fine. We had, we collected almost 100% of our rents across a 500,000 square foot portfolio. Okay. So, that means a lot of tenants are doing just fine, right? But there's the other parts of the country where things were very different, and it was a very different kind of feel. So, look, quick service restaurants crushed it overall, right? Because think about it, naturally, fast food restaurants they have drive-throughs. It is very easy for them to stay contactless. So, for them to pivot during the pandemic was not that big of a deal. They did really well. What we do is, either on the heavy value add side, we'll go find something vacant, buy it, fix it up, put a tenant in there, refinance it or sell it at that point based on the cap rate. And that's a triple net deal. Yep. What we're also doing is going out and we're finding these, single tenant restaurants, and we're packaging them up and figuring out good financing on them and just holding them for our more conservative investors who want to diversify with slightly more, risk averse projects.
Wow. Do you see yourself? I know you. I heard on one of your videos that I was watching, you're an expert on. I think East Nashville. What you consider yourself? That's your market. That's your area. I'm sure you're all over, but that's where you have your expertise. Any aspirations to extend beyond Nashville? or you're open to it if the right situation's to it, or if you could explain?
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, we're very heavily focused in East Nashville and Madison. I mean, it's downtown Nashville. Next to that is East Nashville, and then next to that is Madison. So we're kind of that urban core adjacent. I just bought a 9-story office tower out in Chattanooga, so we're very into Chattanooga. I was actually looking at Huntsville, Birmingham, Louisville, or Chattanooga, and we just ended up finding the right project in Chat. So we're going to be out there for a little bit. I'm hoping to get down to Alabama in the next few years. We're very open to expanding throughout the Southeast. Right now, the only markets that we will even remotely consider are East Nashville, Madison, and downtown / urban core adjacent Chattanooga, just because we want to make sure that we get market share and hit critical mass in these spots. I think it's smart as an investor to diversify, and one way to diversify is to buy in different cities. Even if you buy only office buildings, if you buy office buildings in different cities, that's still diversification, because you never know what could happen to the office market in one spot. So, I love other markets. I mean, if anybody is finding deals in East Nashville, give me a call. I'm a very, very good buyer.
That's what's up. All right. A couple more questions. I know you're a busy man. As far as when the tornado hit downtown Nashville, that was right before COVID, wasn't it? It was like maybe January.
It was March 2nd, 3rd.
Okay, right before. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it was a lot. It was big in the news, and then COVID just took over everything. Of course. How bad was it, just to give us a visual, people that we saw it on the news, but obviously you're there. How bad really was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was really bad, man. It was about a block away from where I lived. It went right through East Nashville, tore up a lot of commercial property, hit a bunch of apartment complexes. It was really bad. I went through Germantown and North Nashville as well, and tore up a bunch of houses. So, East Nashville hadn't been the same for a while. It's great to see it coming back to life in the last 4 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. But we kind of got shut down before everybody else did, because, I think COVID shut us down at the end of March, but we hadn't even been back in the office working normally, because everybody was just out, helping neighbors and fixing everything up. So,
wow.
The damage is still there. There's a lot of groups that are still arguing with insurance companies over how to handle replacements. We still drive by it every day.
Oh, wow. Okay. What would you say East Nashville would be? Is that a C, B neighborhood? What would you say?
Oh man, I think it's a B plus, right? Like you've got some of the highest rents in Nashville, but it's a changing over area. So you've got some, like you can get stuff anywhere from $16 to $40 a foot, right? You're right outside of downtown. I mean, look, it's my favorite neighborhood, so I'm biased. I'm going to say it's an A plus. But in reality, compared to if you want to call the Gulch an A neighborhood, then East Nashville is probably a B plus, right? Okay. So it's a good one, but there's a lot of opportunity there.
Okay. All right, man. We covered a lot of information, man. What services do you offer to individuals that want to get more involved with you? I think you and I are going to do more of this or whatever.
I'd love to.
Yeah, and but what if someone wants to contact you? Number one, I guess you can let them know what services you offer as far as any type of training or consulting on commercial, or just someone may just bring a deal to you. It just may be that simple. I'm going to put your contact information in the description. Also, I'll have it on the screen once I edit this or whatever. But just share what you can offer individuals that are trying to get into business or looking to maybe partner.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in learning more about commercial real estate, go check out my YouTube channel. It's just under my name, Tyler Cauble. We've got, I think, probably over 100 videos now in the past year, just on different aspects of commercial real estate, trying to teach you guys how to do it. Because, when I first got started, there was no content out there. It was very difficult to learn. It can be very frustrating. I do offer consulting on projects. So if you've got a project and you have no idea, you don't know what to do, give me a call. We can talk about that on a case-by-case basis. The best way to get in touch with me is through Instagram. I'm very active on there. So at commercial in Nashville, there's underscores as spaces between the 3 words. I mean, you DM me on there, and I will 99 times out of 100 respond to you.
All right, boom. So, guys, he's giving you a way to reach out to him. And say he and we're going to do more of this. It'll obviously be based around our schedules or whatever, but I still have plenty of questions, and my questions will normally come from what I'm looking at myself. So you all will be able to share in that some of it anyway. So again, Tyler, man, I really, really appreciate you carving out some of your busy day to do this particular interview. And as I said, hopefully we can do more. Anything you want to leave the people with before we get out of here?
Yeah, Todd, thanks so much for having me on the show, man. What I would say for everybody out there is just go do it. Just go find that first commercial deal, put it under contract, buy it. Even if it makes no money or it loses a little bit of money, at least you did it, you learned, and it'll all be worth it.
Oh, yeah. That's experience is the most valuable teacher. All right, guys. So we really appreciate Tyler's time. Again, as always, like to say, guys, we'll see you on the flip side.
Flip man, it's the flip man. You want some money in your hand? Flipping houses without credit or your cash. Yeah, bag.